What if starter Pokemon had new types that weren't just grass, fire, and water? Let's see what that might look like with the Paldea starters. Hey everyone, Brandon here. Well, we finally made it to the most recent set of starters as of when this video comes out. I'm sad to see this series go, but let's cap it off with a bang. So first up, when Sprigatito is given the flying type, it becomes Fuecoco, the Cloud Cat Pokemon. I worked with the lovely Trevenart on this design and the rest of the designs in this video. Make sure to check out their link in the description. Rather than this Pokemon's fluffy fur having a similar composition to plants, instead it has been made to look like two little sets of wings. The pattern on Fuegocito's face is more like a cloud now as well. The natural waxiness of this Pokemon's fur allows it to coast on breezes, soaring through the air but a little haphazardly, as it's not as adept as bird Pokemon at flying. Its tail acts as a bit of a rudder, directing where its wing-like fur takes it. As opposed to Sprigatito, Fuecoco does not prefer to be close to the sun while flying, much preferring to fly amongst the clouds. The sunshine makes the wax in their fur more loose, in turn making it even harder for Fuecoco to fly. This dex entry is of course a reference to the famous tale of Icarus, the man with wings made from feathers and wax that flew too close to the sun. As we are wont to do with this series, I'll be giving each of these Pokemon an ability to match Overgrow, Blaze, and Torrent. So for the flying type, we have Tempest, which raises the power of flying type moves when this Pokemon's HP is low. At level 16, Fuecoco evolves into Sprigatito, the wing cat Pokemon. The fur of this Pokemon is incredibly long, allowing Sprigatito to make wing-like appendages out of it, allowing it to soar through the sky with incredible dexterity. It keeps itself airborne by spinning its Zephyr Top, which unleashes a mighty gale. This wind-imbued object not only looks like a little tornado mixed with a spinning top, but also acts as a reference to the Bag of Winds given to Odysseus by Aeolus in the Odyssey. You know what they say, keep your winds close but your enemies closer, which Sprigatito certainly does, being able to swiftly fly straight up to opponents to attack, delivering a devastating aerial ace or acrobatics. As you can see in its design, the Puss in Boots inspiration is exaggerated a bit more with Sprigatito, having them come up off the leg rather than just staying a pattern on the fur. There are a myriad of winged cats that exist across mythology, such as the Akbars or the Manticore that this can refer to, and with this abundance of fur and larger stature, Sprigatito refers to a Maine Coon cat. These behemoths of the domestic cat world are known for their size and luxurious fur. Of course, other breeds of long-hair cat exist as well, such as the Norwegian forest cat or the Turkish Angora, which keeps this Pokemon's connection to Europe intact. And you can keep your connection to this channel intact by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Also, leave a comment below letting me know which of these starter swaps ends up being your favorite. At level 36, Sprigatito evolves into Meowscarada, the Vigilante Pokemon, a flying fighting type. Somebody call up Mickey. I got a punny musketeer-themed animal for him. So yes, this is a clear reference to the famous tale of the Three Musketeers, as well as the main character, D'Artagnan. The daring, roguish exploits of the group fit perfectly with the vibe of a high-flying, heroic cat. Speaking of, Meowscarada certainly has the aesthetic of a musketeer. If we zoom in a bit, okay, that's too far, let's back it up. Okay, too far, go back. I'm editing this, why do I do this to myself? This mask, while carrying over from Meowscarada, is much different in shape, and when combined with the brim of the hat is a reference to Don Diego de la Vega, also known as Zorro, the eponymous dashing and cunning vigilante. With this line also being a reference to Puss in Boots, this all is a giant reference to Shrek. Shrek is love, Shrek is life. Seriously though, Antonio Banderas played both Zorro and Puss in Boots, with the performance of the latter being inspired by the former. You'll notice that the cloud-like blade that Meowscarada wields doesn't actually have a grip or pommel. Just like Meowscarada's flower, Meowscarada wields this weapon independent of itself. This is a reference to the famous D&D magic item, the Dancing Sword, which can move and act on its own after being thrown in the air by its wielder. The way the clouds are shaped not only looks like the guard of a blade, but also like a lenticular cloud. These are the kind of clouds that are most often associated with UFOs for their round appearance. Meowscarada uses its deftness in the air to be a protector of the weak, performing elaborate yet graceful stunts in the air before landing a combo of attacks between itself and its cloudy blade. This is its signature move, Air Blade, a base 70 physical flying type attack that never misses and will always be a critical hit. Is this just a flying type version of Flower Trick? Yes, but flying type moves have a history of having higher critical hit rates, and with the inspiration behind this line, a clever hero who almost always knows exactly how to defeat their foe, it's a fitting signature move. Keeping Protean as a hidden ability for this line fits really well for the exact same reason. A hero that always has the right answer to whatever they're facing. And you would be my hero if you hit that join button to become a member. Membership gets you amazing perks like early access to videos or a shout out at the end of my videos, all the while helping me pay the talented artists I work with to make these Pokemon. So go hit that join button now. Now for our fire starter Fuecoco, which when given the electric type becomes Fuecoco, the Elecroc Pokemon. Our silly little guy has become rotund. This is a relatively simple type shift, with fire and electric feeling in the same wheelhouse conceptually, so we wanted to add a little bit of a different flavor to this design, literally, as instead of being based on a chili pepper, Fuecoco is based on a lemon. Sour things are often branded with an electric zing to them, and on top of that, it just makes sense from a color perspective. Bright yellow fruit plus yellow electricity equals profit. The face of Fuecoco is even more white than Fuecoco, as it refers to the pith of a lemon, the white spongy parts of citrus fruit that no one wants to eat. Unless you do, I guess. I don't know, I don't want to yuck your yum. Fuecoco builds up energy in its body by laying on or around electronics or power plants. It will absorb so much energy that it must be released from the small dent atop Fuecoco's head. This lets out a low ringing buzz sound. The electricity atop its head can shock those who get too close to Fuecoco. So as much as you want to cuddle this round lad, I advise against it. Unless you're Ash Ketchum or Marlin. For the Blaze equivalent, Fuecoco would have Overload, which powers up electric type moves when at low HP. At level 16, Fuecoco evolves into Quaxly, the Shock Croc Pokemon. While this croc does still have some of that Calavera design in there, even adding a little bit of an Alabrije twist with its pattern, the fiery sombrero of Crocolore is no more. Instead, it's meant to look like a hard hat, and the pattern on its scales is a reference to an electrician's uniform and protective gear. The hard hat itself emulates the appearance of a Tesla coil with a ball of energy coming from the top, while at the same time reflecting a snake coiled up, protecting its egg. This refers to how many people continue to think that Fuecoco represents the snake of the Firestarter Zodiac theory, or they think it represents the bull, which the reasoning there is a bigger stretch than the character glitches in Scarlet and Violet. Like, let's be so for real, y'all, what are we talking about? The energy emitted from Quaxly's head lets off a hissing or roaring noise, leaving those who are unfamiliar with this Pokemon thinking that it's upset with them or ready to attack. Because of this, the poor thing has a hard time making friends. It's got RBF, Roaring Buzzface. At level 36, Quaxly evolves into Skelecharge, the Deafening Pokemon, an electric steel type. I know this name has Talonflame-itis, but so does Skeledirge, so cut me some slack here. You will always know when a Skelecharge is around, as with the assistance of their bird-like familiar, it will release a thunderous roar to warn others not to come near it. This is actually their signature move, Feedback, where Skelecharge releases a distorted and disruptive blast of sound at the opponent. This is a base 80 electric sound-based move with the chance to confuse the target. This signature move is based on audio feedback, which happens when a mic picks up the sound of a speaker and feeds it back through the speaker again, creating a loud, very irritating noise that I'm sure many concert goers and theater kids are familiar with. Anyway, Skelecharge's overall design and electric steel typing are inspired by the crocodile, or crocodile, a type of German locomotive named as such for their resemblance to the reptile, in coloration and in the long noses that they have. I always thought Skeledirge's cry kinda sounded like a train horn, so Skelecharge's would be much the same, with a little added oomph to really sell how loud those toot-toots can be. The burst of energy coming from the sides of Skelecharge's head are meant to emulate cartoonish depictions of a loud noise, which have this more crackly electric appearance. The Calavera elements of Skeledirge have instead been changed to look more like the windows, lights, and metal parts seen on the side of a train. And the bright colors we used were meant to reference the graffiti that is commonly seen on the side of train cars. The bird familiar that was originally based on an Egyptian plover now acts as the horn of a train, as well as being partly inspired by the Native American thunderbird for obvious reasons. And in concept are like the European starling, which are known for their vocal mimicry, since this bird is mimicking a train's horn. For its hidden ability, we could keep unaware, as a train would definitely not care what stat changes your Pokemon made, it would just keep chugging. Or we could give it soundproof, as the loud roar of this Pokemon would drown out any sound made by its opponents. Obviously, with its train inspiration, Steam Engine is also a contender, but seeing as Skelecharge is inspired by an electric train, it doesn't exactly fit the concept. Last but not least, we have our stylish blue-footed booby, Quaxly, which when given the ground type becomes Quaxly, the Dirtling Pokemon. Quaxly is much less preoccupied with appearances than its water-type counterpart. It is constantly covered in mud, which it uses to push back its messy feathers out of its face, rather than any natural oils. Though the mud doesn't have a 100% success rate, as you can see with this little cowlick feather near its face. This dirt covering is inspired by dust bathing, a method many birds employ to clean their feathers and get rid of any parasites or pests when water isn't readily available. Quaxly will stomp its feet around on the ground in unique patterns to break up the dirt, turning it into mud to put on its body, and to bring out potential food that might be writhing underneath the soil. Two birds, one stone. Or I guess I should say 2 stones, 1 bird. The design changes of this Pokemon are very slight, with the coloration and hairstyle being the main ones, but you can definitely see the shift from the confident, collected Quaxly into the unbothered, unkempt Quaxly. The little waves on the hair of the original have been shifted to look more like the cracks in the ground formed by severe earthquakes. And rather than being inspired by crested ducks and blue-footed boobies, Quaxly takes from the mandarin duck and the female common merganser, both of which have this absolutely outrageous looking plumage, which definitely fits on this messy Pokemon. Quaxly would have the fittingly named ability Quake, just like Gritton from our Alola starter video, which powers up ground type moves when this Pokemon's HP is low. At level 16, Quaxly evolves into Quakeswell, the Promenade Pokemon. This dirty duck has a unique way of walking about. It will shift from side to side in large sweeping motions, kicking up dust around it. This act is a reference to sandwalking from Dune, a way of traversing through the deserts of Arrakis without drawing the attention of the Shy Halud, also known as the enormous and dangerous sandworms found on the planet. With Orthworm, a giant worm Pokemon that Quakeswell's ground typing does nothing against, being present in Paldea, I felt this reference was extraordinarily fitting. Speaking of fits, Quakeswell's thrown one, as it's meant to look a bit like the outfits worn by the Fremen, the native people of Arrakis, with their more haggard appearance working well with the messiness of this line so far. All it's missing are some bright blue eyes. But this is supposed to be a kid's game, so we'll avoid the outright reference to space drugs. At level 36, Quakeswell evolves into Quaquayawl, the Duchy Pokemon, a ground fairy type. Slay Queen! But like, literally. Quaquayawl with its category and design are meant to emulate a Renaissance queen. More specifically, it's based on Elizabeth of France, who was the Queen of Spain and Portugal for approximately 20 years. She is the progenitor of the House of Bourbon, which is the current Spanish royal family, and her descendant is the Grand Duke of Luxembourg as well. Anyway, before this video turns into an episode of Game of Thrones, let's get back to Quaquayawl. With this final stage, I can finally explain that the entire line's hair is inspired by a pomegranate. In Spain, this fruit is a symbol of abundance and victory, as it is a major symbol in the Kingdom of Granada, with it being on the city's coat of arms, and it can be seen on the national flag of Spain. The dress-like feathers of Quaquayawl, while being a reference to the attire of Elizabeth of France, is also a reference to different soil layers, with the skirt being an upside-down depiction that is rounded to refer to the Earth itself. I said what I said, Flat Earthers. The concept of this entire line, from sandwalking to queens, comes together to reference Quakeswell's category, a promenade. Those who have watched Bridgerton will know what I mean. A promenade is where prestigious and royal houses would walk about as a sign of status and to socialize. Except with this line, their promenade is a bit more obtuse, and shakes the earth beneath it with their sheer power. This is Quaquayawl's signature move, Quakewalk, a base 80 physical ground-type move that breaks apart the earth beneath the target, lowering its speed by one stage. For its hidden ability, we have to go with Queenly Majesty, with this Pokemon being so Queen-inspired. Either that, or we could go with Supreme Overlord, which isn't as fitting, but does line up with Moxie, Quaquavall's original hidden ability. So when you look at these three, a flying cat, a train croc, and a dirt duck, you probably don't see much of a theme going on, but there are actually two. First, with the daring antics of Meowsketeer, the reptilian monstrosity that is Skelecharge, and the royal presence of Quaquaval, we have the literary trope of the hero, the dragon, and the princess. And speaking of literary references, each of these draws inspiration from a book of the past, present, and future, which ties back into Scarlet and Violet's core themes. Obviously, Meowsketeer is the past with the Three Musketeers, and as I said, the Quaquaval line pulls from Dune, a book set in a futuristic universe, but that leaves Skelecharge as the present with Lyle Crocodile. Okay, look, I know it's a meme, but seriously, it's a singing crocodile and it fits. And those are what the Paldea starters might look like with new types. Thanks so much to our incredible members who go that extra mile to support this channel, which you can also do by hitting that join button. And an especially big shout out to our art mages Living Lava, Bailey Pennington, and William Hartya. Thanks so very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.